It's Monday, the 1st of December 2025. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's go. Story number 1. With 1 month to go before the end of the year, the local share market sits at the bottom of the global league tables when it comes to performance, with the S&P ASX 200 up just 5% in the first 11 months of 2025.
That compares to more than 20% in Canada and Japan, 16% in Britain and Germany, 12 to 14% for the major indices in US and China, and about 11% for Europe. There are a number of reasons for the underperformance. The first is that the Australian market is overweight banks and financials, and the major lenders, particularly Commonwealth Bank, have underperformed. In fact, on Friday, Commonwealth Bank closed lower than where it started this year. Also, our biggest mining stocks are the iron ore producers, not really a forward-looking economy. Generally, the best performers globally have been tech and new economy businesses. Now, another reason is the record flow of money into overseas-focused exchange-traded funds here. In fact, 5 of the top 20 ETFs in Australia are focused, or 15 of the 20 are focused offshore. A third reason, Donald Trump's tariffs, although he has dialed back on the rhetoric recently. That's helped some markets. And a fourth reason is that while interest rates in Australia now seem to be on hold, US rates are expected to fall this month. That should help Wall Street.
All right, plenty of reasons there. The big question, and possibly the harder one as well, Sean, is this going to continue? Is the Australian underperformance likely to keep going through to the end of the year and beyond?
Let's leave that one to the experts. AMP Shane Oliver said share markets remain at risk of a further correction given stretched valuations, risks around US tariffs and the softening US jobs market. But with the Fed still likely to cut rates further, shares are likely to provide reasonable gains on a 12-month horizon. UBS's equity strategist Richard Shellback reckons the ASX 200 will only rise about 3% over the next 12 months. Other investment banks like Goldman's reckon that Wall Street will underperform other global indices. As I said, I don't really know, but certainly the local market has had a poor 2025 relative to its peers. Not good for local investors, including everyone with superannuation.
Okay, let's move on to story number 2 now. And national home values across the country rose by 1% during November. That is the third consecutive month of strong growth.
The mid-sized capitals outperformed, Perth up 2.4%, Sydney and Melbourne underperformed. Sydney 0.5%, Melbourne 0.3%, according to Cotality. The bias towards mid-sized capitals in part reflect the lack of listings. So the national average is 16% below what's normal. Sydney is just 2%. That explains why that market isn't as hot. After 3 straight months of strong growth, affordability pressures and a lack of further interest rate cuts loom as dampeners in the future. Cotality's Tim Lawless said the subtle, and it's very subtle, easing in the headline result last month comes as auction clearance rates have tracked lower. In fact, the national result over the last week was 68.2%, which is actually below the long-term average.
While we're talking property, I'll mention story number 3 now, Sean. The federal government's Help to Buy scheme kicks off this week, whereby first home buyers can share equity in their homes with the government so as to purchase a property sooner.
The program will provide 10,000 low to medium income first home buyers each year the ability to purchase a home with just a 2% deposit. The government will contribute 30 to 40% of the home price in exchange for equity. The owner can then buy that out later. While the government said it won't put pressure on prices, it is a demand-side policy, not a supply-side policy, so it's hard to see that it won't push up prices in that segment of the market.
Story number 4. The tax office will crack down on high-income professionals and tradies who pursue aggressive tax evasion strategies by splitting income with their spouses and children.
The ATO has identified elevated levels of excessive income splitting by people who use trust companies and partnerships to divert income to family members on lower tax rates. It's issued updated guidance that spells out exactly what it will allow when it applies the anti-avoidance measures to so-called professional services income. It captures not just doctors, lawyers, architects, but also tradies, electricians, plumbers, etc. A personal service business basically is any operation where most of the money made is generated by personal skill, labour or expertise. The action is likely to affect many thousands of personal service businesses that use income splitting strategies. Worth noting, ATO won't backdate its compliance push if taxpayers make a genuine effort to move their arrangement into low risk by June 30, 2027.
All right, last one. Sean, we've talked share markets, we've talked trusts and property and everything. It's hard to go to this one, but let's do it. Researchers have found that cats meow more frequently when greeting male caregivers, probably because men don't listen as well.
The study in the journal Ethology filmed inside cat owners' homes. Now, you can't do much in laboratories. Dogs tend to be well-behaved in laboratories. Cats don't. Anyway, the study found that cats meow more when men enter a room, according to a report in the New York Times. Across all demographic variables, including the sex and age of the cat, pedigree status, number of cats in the home, only one factor was linked to vocalisation frequency: the biological sex of the caregiver. So on average, cats produced 4.3 meows in the first 100 seconds of a male caregiver getting home. For a woman, it was just 1.8. The team at Bilkent University in Turkey hypothesised that men require more explicit vocalisations to notice and respond to the needs of their cats. In other words, men don't listen as much. Cats adjust their behaviour accordingly.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Monday, the 1st of December 2025. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. And head along to fearandgreed.com.au or check the link in today's show notes to sign up for our free daily newsletter as well. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.